Good afternoon. Today is October the 14th, 2022. Trading and investing of any kind carries risk. Everything discussed here is for entertainment purposes only and not to be taken as financial advice. Because I do not give advice. All right. So let's talk about, first thing first, the market. So I have been away for a bit, on and off, back and forth. I've had things going on and family gatherings and all that fun stuff, but now I'm back at least through the end of the year. So let's look at this. What happened today? Well, pretty much just a pull, and that's not much else. If you are not at least an intermediate trader on a day like today, you probably got ripped. Got your money taken, because every time something decided to move, you were like, oh no, it's gonna go, and you got in it, and it didn't go. Now, if you know how to scalp trade and you scalped today, you probably did all right, as long as you know how to scalp and you didn't get stuck in things. Basically, exactly like I was just talking about. So, how would you trade a day like today? Oof. Well, not easily, that's for sure. Unless you really know what's going on and you can trade on higher, like lower time frames. So, one thing you could do is look for these little things here. These little ding, 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 these little guys. And the reason I say that is because they happen and they're always within reason. Usually they're going to happen. And it's because they just, nothing goes straight down, right? It always follows some kind of pattern, or it follows, some kind of retracement. Because on the way down, people take profit. And when people take profit in short positions, it pushes the stock back up a bit. So here, let's see, we got this pull here. Got this push back up to 38.2, which gave us a bit of a harmonic. I don't even know what the turnaround on that was, if that even made a proper. Let's check that. This is what I would do during the day to trade this, and I did trade this. I traded a little bit of that pull, and then I traded these little patterns here. So this bigger pattern, so usually what you'll find, especially on, I guess, pretty much any time on these like 5-second, 15-second time frames, you'll find little patterns within patterns, right? So you'll see like W right here. You'll see that here, right, which is M, but it's got that little W, and you have to have that W on days like today, which you probably would any other day anyway. You really have to have them to set up that pull. And so those are the things that I look for on days like today. But as time went on, if you look, just like anything else, you look at this over here, this volume just died for the most part. On low volume days, this is what you get. I know this looks like stock is moving, right? It looks like you got a bunch of moving going on, but you don't. Look at this. On a 5-minute chart, you have nothing. And there's really little to nothing happening. And like I said, you could trade it. You can scalp trade. I did today. Made some decent money, but it's not like a day like this. Now, unfortunately, I was gone for this day, but I'm going to do a video after this to kind of go back through yesterday. And again, I don't plan these videos. I just treat it like, the day's going on, and just kind of talk through some things I might notice. So back in here, what else do we have? Well, we have W here that kind of pushed us up. Well, I'm willing to bet you that if I retrace that W, it's going to have pushed to like a, I don't know, 1.414 or 1.618 almost even. We'll see here. Let's see if we retrace that. Let's see how wrong I am. Give it a almost 1.414, not quite. We got a 1.272. So, which tells me that that was the completion of this W here. Let's see what that looks like. Only really even 1.8. Yeah, I mean, we didn't even complete anything there. So it's just these little patterns. Yeah, so, I mean, what a garbage day when it comes to actual pattern completions and all that stuff. So I think that as far as today goes, is kind of meh. So now that we've established that that's a meh day, how would we have known that that pull at the open was coming? So this is a thing that a lot of people don't understand. Okay, so you know those days you have where the SPY or some other stock, I mean any stock really, you know, you'll wake up and you'll look at pre-market and it's gapped up a few bucks or it's gapped down a few bucks. And it opens way below where it closed or where it ended yesterday, and you know, most people don't understand where that comes from. So where that comes from is the futures. So how would you have known that this was going to pull? Well, the SPY is basically the I'm gonna get this wrong, but it's the index fund of the S&P 500. So let's go to let's just do the ESC. Let's go into the ES for December 2022. Okay, and you notice I did that. All my stuff changed up here. I have them all connected and linked. You notice that everything here changed. Even my other screen changes. Right, that goes to MES as well. Have them all connected. So anyway, another story for another time. So how would we have known? Well, see here. We have this. Yeah. That is one way we could have known, because after that we get a pull. So what did we get here? Right, W completed on the futures. But if you look back at the SPY, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look as clean as that. And that's because the futures runs all night. It runs through the whole night. While you're sleeping, you know, it cuts off for like 1 hour. And then it comes right back on and it trades through the middle of the night. And that's why you see these gap ups and gap downs. So we see this W, we get this pullback. I'm sure if we measure that, that's going to be probably a crab pattern-ish. Yeah. Or a butterfly. Let's see, we push 78.6. That's going to be a butterfly. Pretty sure that's a butterfly. And then it pushes up to, what do we get? 1.414. There we go. So I think a butterfly usually pushes to 1.618. Let me verify. Hold on. Oh, no, it can go. Okay, so we're good here. We're clean here. So the max is usually 1.618. Anyway, okay. So we get finished with that. And then what happens? Well, if we zoom in, let's just call it a 1 minute time frame. What happened? Well, we started building this M pattern. Now it was ugly. This is like an Adam and Eve type of pattern, right? Where it's a bit slower. I mean, we even had a little bit of an M try to do something there, but I wouldn't even really count that as much. So, but yeah, I mean, we had this pull down to here. So if we were to measure that, oh, come on. We got a 61.8. And then we got a pullback of about 78.6. And we pulled all the way down to 1.618. I mean, we really pulled down to 1.272, and then we covered. For people that covered on the way down around, I mean, it blew through 61.8, which is pretty wild, but it covered around 78.6. And so we covered around 78.6 because that would have been within the realm of a Gartley pattern, right? And so people covered there because it could have very well been a Gartley. So people took profits there. And then they took it again at 1.272. I don't know why at 1.272. I could probably figure it out, but I'm not going to go there right now. So just, this is what I do. This is how I study. I go back and research and figure out, because off the top of my head, I can't exactly figure out why we covered it to 1.272. I'll have to go back and figure it out. But this is how you learn, right? And keep in mind, I've been away from this for almost a week now, so not that that's really an excuse, but you know, my mind has been on family and booze. So anyway, so there we are. That's why that pull happened. There was a pattern that set up. I mean, and right at the open, I mean, we got the retrace that we needed, and it pulled, and we covered in the right spot, and then it continued down from there. Oh, maybe it was because that CPI report came out. That's, I think, what happened. That's why we pulled. I'm pretty sure that's what happened now that I think about it. I'm pretty certain. Anyway, so that's what happened. Yeah, we got down, this pattern completed, and then we hem-hauled around and waited for that. I think it was a consumer report that came out, and it was not great, but it wasn't bad. I mean, normally I don't think we would have seen a pull like that, but I think we just needed some volatility, so that's what happened. And we had a bit of a sell-off. And then, you know, people covered. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much what happened there. So let's look at from these points here, right? And let's look at where we went. Look at this. We hit 38.2%, right? And then we came back down here. Let's make this our peak. What was our retrace? 61.8, almost on the nose, 61.8, right? And then you got that turnaround back down. And so now you could actually start looking at it this way. Look at it. And then you could start measuring. That's a long fall from just right there. Anyway, so this is kind of what I do. I start looking for reasons why, and then you start comparing it with volume. So that's how you know those pulls are going to happen. You know, another piece you could have looked at, I don't know. This is a pretty ugly W if it formed a W. I don't know if I really go there, but you could. But that's the stuff you have to look for. But you got to remember not to really have a bias about it, because if you get stuck on one thing and you think you're going to be right, you'll be wrong sometimes, and you'll lose because you'll be so stuck on thinking like so unidirectional that it'll just screw up your whole day because you're so focused on being right that you didn't realize you were wrong until it's too late. So don't do that. I've done it. I've definitely been there. So not a thing you want to do. Anyway, so that is what I would say for today. And the lesson being, if you don't understand how to trade the open, don't do it. And on a day like today, if you can't trade that choppy bullcrap, don't trade it. No trade is a good trade. No position is still a position. Don't ever, ever, ever forget that. Because most traders, before they become really, I would say today you'd have to have been pretty good other than lucky to be profitable today. Like every trade I made, I traded a pattern. And I know it might sound crazy, but again, I trade the SPY. I just look at futures for the reference. Sometimes I trade futures, but definitely not today. So here is what I trade. Let's go here. So I will trade days like today on a 5-second chart. Do you see how ugly that looks? Even on a 5-second chart, it looks insanely ugly. I don't know why anybody would want to trade that if you didn't understand how to do this. Zoom in really, really far. And now, zoom in really far. Start seeing these patterns set up. Right? Pattern here. It's the same exact pattern you would see on a 5-minute chart that you would normally trade for like a full-blown day trade. But this is a scalp. Right? It's just a little small W setting up. I mean, what was the push here? So where would I have entered? I would have probably entered this. Oh, I would have looked for confirmation. But, you know, you start to look at these particular things here, as I always talk about. Right? You got this here. You got this kind of, reversal zone, potential reversal zone here. So you get this first one. You see it set up and you see it pull. You trace that from the top. You do a retrace. And then you know, okay, we've got a harmonic set up. Come back down. We'll look at it here. You know, it's probably a bit more of a pull. I would say that that's probably beyond a typical setup. Yeah, I mean, that went almost double bottom. So what you would see, you would see this here. You'd see this potential reversal zone, a little bit of confirmation. And if we zoomed in even further, you know, you'll start to see these little like W patterns set up and they'll push, right? And then when they start pulling back and they don't pull back to go further down, that's when I start to take notice, right? So when you zoom out just a little bit more, and now normally while I'm trading this, I have a completely different chart setup for scalping. So all these charts would be changed out for other charts. I wouldn't have a 5-minute anymore. The highest time frame I would have would be about 1 minute. And then this other setup here would be 1 second, 5 second, 15 second, and 30 second, right? And they would still have these same things, but I would treat it just way faster. I would treat them like very, very quick. I mean, I say very fast. The scalping is quick trades. Anyway, so we look here, we get in, we do a bit of a measurement here, not a measurement, we draw a trend line here, draw it right through this middle. And if you look right here, we get this, we never hit that low again, right? So, okay, we get this push and we get to this trend line right here that we've drawn. And of course, when we get through it, boom, we get through it with volume. That is important. Got through it with volume. Then we get these wicks, which means we're going to come back and we're going to try to retest that push. But we didn't really retest very far. We didn't even come back to the trend line. So that's good. We turned around. Look at this. See this again. We had this little reversal right here. Pushed. Push. We had another retest here. So we could measure this out and start looking at it on Fibonacci as well. Which, I mean, I'm a pretty big fan of Fibonacci. Once I learned it, it was kind of like, holy hell, why didn't I know this sooner? But you'll always notice it does it around these fib lines. 61.8 is a big one. Look at that. Look at that pullback at 61.8. So the biggest ones are going to be 38.2, pullback, retest, push, get through 50%, push, get through 61.8, come back, retest, and look at that big long wick. Oh, that's so pretty. That's what you want. You want, as soon as it dips below that retest of that 50%, that's what you want to see. You want to see everybody buying it up. Now, in this case, not everybody's buying it up because it's a choppy, just a crappy choppy day. But, you know, you have to be very patient on days like today and really know what you're doing. Because if you don't, I mean, look at this. This thing would have looked like it was going against you every time you got in it. You just had to know. And if you didn't know, if you couldn't look down here, look at the volume that created these turnarounds. I mean, you would have been chopped up all day long. So it was a tough day. So anyway, it's a much longer video than I normally make, probably twice as long. But I wanted to kind of help people understand that those opening trades a lot of times come from patterns that are set up overnight in the futures. So, and just know that the futures, that ESZ, is only for the final quarter of the year. So that letter will change per quarter. You know, and near the end of the quarter, when we're getting into the next quarter, you'll want to move on to the next one. So you want to kind of watch them and see kind of when the volume moves over to the new one. Anyway, I'm not a futures expert. I just trade the futures similar to how I would the SPY. And just know if I ever mention futures and I use the term contracts, it's not options. Just when you trade futures equity, like the equivalent of equity on the SPY, the futures, it's called contracts. Anyway, so that's it for today. I mean, I could go through the rest of the day, but it's the same stuff. I mean, it's really just a bunch of scalping all day long. And, I only scalp on days that we don't have good moves just because, I don't like missing out on moves. And I've gotten to the point in my trading career, maybe you could call it, that I know how to do that. I can zoom in on a 5-second or a 1-second chart, and I can catch these little pops and these little M's and W's as they form. I can measure them quickly, kind of get a rough idea of where they're going to go, and I'll scale in and out of them just as I would a bigger trade. It's just way faster, right? So you're throwing a bunch of shares in and you're scaling out as they move up, and you're getting out way quicker. So, that's just how it goes. So anyway, it's my first time back. Wanted to kind of get back on this train of putting these videos together. After this video, I'm going to go back and put videos together of previous days in the week. I'm not going to plan them. I'm just going to go through them just like I'm doing right now, and kind of talk through what the day looked like, kind of analyze it as I go through it, make video about it. And if you like it, awesome. Comment, like, subscribe, tell people, whatever you want to do. I really enjoy making these videos, as I've said. So I look forward to making more. So I will see everybody later.